All right, so congrats. You hopefully have landed on one particular idea for a specialized market that you're gonna get into and test throughout the rest of this course. Great. Keep that spreadsheet handy because it's gonna become very useful for you down the road. Right now in this lesson, we're gonna go over how to reach out to people and actually collect feedback from real people in real life, which I know might sound scary, and don't worry, I'm talking about all about the techniques you can use and how to set that all up so it's not very scary. And we're gonna go slow, don't worry, I'm not gonna ask you to stand up in front of a large crowd of people and actually do your pitch. You don't have to worry about that yet. That comes later. There's no stage, so don't worry. But anyway, we're gonna go slow. The first thing I wanna tell you is why we need to reach out. You know, many entrepreneurs, they build something even after research like we've done and just put it out there and then hope for the best. They're shouting from the rooftops saying, buy my thing. And then nobody buys, and then they wonder why. And oftentimes they give up after that. Well, for us, we are collecting feedback now before we build our item or our solution because we wanna know what mistakes we don't have to make. We wanna know what they like about this idea so we can move forward with that, or what they don't like about that idea so we can adjust later on. That's what the next stage is about. It's about adjusting and refining our idea, but we won't know how to do that until we collect that feedback. So that's exactly what we're going to do. Okay, so our goal here is to reach out to 10 people, at least 10 different people to collect that feedback. And it's gonna be really cool because you're gonna be able to see what their initial reactions are, which are gonna be really important. You're also gonna hear what else could be added on top of this idea to make it even better. You're even gonna see if there maybe are solutions out there already that these people are using, which will give you an idea on what other competitors to look at and how you might be able to stand out from them. You might be able to collect feedback like, oh, well, I used this item, but I really wish it had that. Well, that is something that you would incorporate into your solution. A lot of fun things are gonna happen, but I also know for a lot of you, it's gonna be a little bit scary to reach out to people, which is why we're gonna start slow. You're gonna be able to reach out to people that you know already, friends and family, although I will ask you to reach out to at least 1 or 2 people who you don't know. Now, like I said, this is gonna be a little bit scary, and this is for me something that I had to step out of my comfort zone to do and have continued to do, even though I am introverted. I don't necessarily want to go up and talk to people, but for the sake of your business and serving this audience, you have to. And this is what separates entrepreneurs who succeed from entrepreneurs who don't, the ones that actually step out of that comfort zone and put themselves out there and await and welcome that feedback that may be positive or it may be negative, but is all useful to you. So you have to realize that if you're going to become an entrepreneur, you need to do these things. You need to go out there, step out of your comfort zone and talk to people. And like I said, we're gonna start slow because you're gonna be doing more of this later. In the additional resources section, you're actually gonna be able to download and hear real conversations that I have with people that I know, people that I don't know about my calendar idea. I wanna show you what those conversations are like. But for right now, I wanna show you actually how to have these conversations, how to lead into these things, because there's a few do's and a few don'ts that you need to realize in order to maximize the impact that you have and the feedback that you get from people that you talk about your idea with. So to start, and I'll define this more in the action item section at the end here when I tell you what to do, you're gonna start with your friends and family. Again, they're close to you, it's gonna be good practice for you, and even though they may be biased, it's still gonna be good information that you're gonna collect from this. Now, I will say that leading up to any conversations you have about your potential idea, you wanna make sure that you don't lead into it by saying something like, hey, I had this amazing idea for a product, I wanna know what you think about it. You don't wanna ever preface this conversation that you have by saying that your idea is awesome before they ever heard it. You also don't wanna do the opposite and say, hey, I had this idea, I don't know if it's gonna be good or not, you may or may not like it, but I'd love to talk to you about it, is that okay? You don't wanna do that too because you're not producing any confidence and their reaction is gonna be a little bit different based on how you approach it. The way that I typically do it, and you'll hear it in these conversations in the additional resources section as well, is I begin to ask questions first about things related to that solution that I have. So I don't even talk about that solution yet. I bring that up mid-conversation, but I might start with, for this calendar thing, by asking people about how they actually keep track of what they do every day. Do they use any tools? What do they like about them? What do they not like about them? And then get into, well, what if there was a calendar that was this? And I have to do a little bit more brainstorming in terms of what I would say, and you would too, of course, but having a picture of what it is that I wanna share. Again, it doesn't have to be fully fleshed out because you're kind of doing that along with these people who you're speaking to. But if I were to say something like, what if there was a wall calendar that you had that allowed you to easily keep track of all the project that you had going on and be able to plan 12 months ahead of time, no matter what month of the year you were in, right? That sounds pretty cool because the calendar I have right now, when you use up some of the months and the year goes by, you don't ever plan a year ahead of time until sort of the next year, and you use a brand new calendar. So maybe it's like a rolling calendar or something. That would be kind of the pitch or the position there. So anyway, I'll brainstorm it more, and you'll hear more about those conversations in the additional resource section. But that's how you approach those conversations. You don't ever drop in that product idea in that first lead up into it. You want to get there through the questions that you ask. Now, if you're going to be asking people to help you in this way, you want to make sure that you do your best to help them out too. So if there's some way that you can actually offer to help somebody in exchange for getting their feedback for just 1 or 2 minutes of time, that would be great. This is especially helpful if you are reaching out to people who you don't know, strangers or people at Starbucks. I often do this because some of the best feedback comes from people who don't even know who I am. It's very honest, and I get different angles on things that I wouldn't have gotten from my friends and family. And I would recommend you do the same too. So at Starbucks, for example, I'll buy somebody behind me a coffee, and I'll say, hey, do you mind if I run an idea by you really quick? I'm very honest about it too. I say I'm an entrepreneur. I just love collecting real feedback from people I don't know so I can get an honest opinion on it. You can do the exact same thing. All right, so a couple more tips here. As you're having these conversations, make sure you listen to the person's answer. And I don't mean, I don't expect you to be rude and kind of look away and things like that. But what I mean is don't interrupt the person when they're speaking. Too often, I hear entrepreneurs get so excited that they interrupt the person that's actually giving them their answers. I hear this on podcast interviews all the time. Let the person speak. And it's your job as sort of an interviewer to continue to ask questions and go deeper into the why they feel the way they feel. So if they come at you with an answer related to a question you asked about your product, you're more than welcome to ask questions like, well, how come you feel like that? Or what would be ideal to you? Or is there something else that's missing here? Those kinds of questions can lead to the answers that you are looking for that will help you adjust in the next stage of this course. All right, so a couple more things before we get into the action items related to these conversations. So you don't want to actually record these conversations or take notes during them. Now, I know that might sound like the opposite of what you're supposed to do, but you want to make this person who's helping you out feel as comfortable as possible. And if you were to approach them with a recorder in hand or a pen and paper, it might seem a little intimidating. They're not going to give you the answers that you want. And lastly, don't just listen to their words, but look at how they react too. What's their body language saying? A lot of what people say is not with their words, but how they actually react with their body. So pay attention to that as well. Okay, your action item for this lesson is the following. Reach out to at least 10 people and share your idea with them using the tips and conversation items that we talked about. So 10 different people. Try to make it a mix of family and friends, which are going to be people who are very close or somewhat close to you. And then try to reach out to at least 2 people in that 10 who you don't know. Again, very scary, but great training for you. And you're going to collect this amazing feedback that's going to help you adjust, which is what we're going to do, and refine your idea in the next stage. So again, action items, speak to at least 10 people, 2 strangers. Good luck, and I'll see you in the next video.